Hey yo, Tony Chips here at Chiappetta Shoes. This is a workshop live. Today we got a D11 foot type, cranky right knee, and a little bit of a hesitation resistance to a custom orthotic. We've had these since March of 26, few months this year. And at first she was feeling okay. She has the Brooks Adrenaline, loves the shoe, feeling pretty comfortable with the shoe by itself, but we were thinking, hey, we can improve overall mechanics with a nice custom orthotic. So D11 foot type, nice and neutral in the rear foot, nice and neutral in the toe, medium low, low arch, even weight distribution, fractured left ankle 10 to 11 years ago, has some hardware in there. Overall looks pretty steady. Right foot, nice and even, good heel to toe balance, but we have some left knee arthritis. She's feeling it. She feels pretty good with the Brooks Adrenaline, but she wants to start wearing the orthotics more often, and she feels pretty good, but the main point of hesitation is that she feels like there's too much pressure in the medial arch, particularly kind of closer to the heel in that navicular area. So sometimes we deal with too much arch support, and when we take the impression of a foot, we're using a semi-weight bearing impression. We align the heel and ankle and the first and fifth in the most neutral starting point. Now, I've done this forever, and you can never say you've seen everything. So when you're doing an impression, you want to start with the most neutral, and you can modify up or down from there. That's a big part of what we do. When you're taking an impression of a foot, some doctors, chiropractors, they do full weight bearing, where you're taking the foot and taking the impression, you're getting the lowest point possible. Some doctors still do it the old school way of non-weight bearing, where you're sitting at a table and they position the talus and the navicular in the most highest part. For us, we like to start with neutral, and we build up or down from there. In this case, D11 foot type, we have a nice neutral starting point in that medial arch there, but neutral's too much for this person. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take it top down, and we're gonna show you what we have. When you're making a modification of an orthotic, when there's too much arch support, you have two ways to approach this. We can reduce the medial arch support, and we can reduce the longitudinal and lateral. So you kind of have three main spots. You have this zone here, and then you have the lateral there. Now, in this case, D11 foot type, she's just getting a little too much pressure. Instead of scooping out the top, we want to give her that shape. We just want to reduce the amount of firm pressure from underneath. So we're going to take this scaphoid area and skive it out. Now, if we just skive it out, it'll let that body weight compress really nicely in that medial zone there. But for the sake of the integrity of the orthotic, we want to fill that in with a little EVA so it sits still inside the shoe and it's not going to scoot around. So we're going to take you over to the grinding machine. Okay, so what we did was in the medial arch here, we scooped that out. Essentially what you're doing is, this is a 55 durometer multi-cork. We're going to take that out and we're going to replace it with 35 durometer EVA, same as what's on the top here. And the key of what we do is, we're not technically removing any shape necessarily. We're not taking away that medial arch support, the shape. We're reducing the pressure. That's the essential key that we're trying to accomplish here. And in most cases, it's not necessarily the shape, it's how firm of a material you're using underneath there. You know, for all my lovely running footwear developers, durometers matter. I wish you guys would get back to doing multi-durometer midsoles. Right, Scott?
That's right.
Yes, right. We need some multi-durometer midsoles. And having the Brooks Adrenaline with this combo here, I think that could be a bit of a factor when we're talking about the effectiveness of the orthotic. She might be getting some of this extra pressure with the midsole components of the Brooks. And you know, when we make an orthotic, what we're trying to accomplish is as much uniformity as possible. So when I make an orthotic, you know, my intention is to have my customers use them with as many shoes as possible. Sometimes when we get some issues going on with knee and hip, you have specific shoes you might want to stick to, and you got to get a little more dialed in with the types of products that you're working with, because when you combine these different layers of materials, they do interact with the shoes differently. So, okay, so you might be saying to yourself, Tony, what are you doing over here? What are you doing over here? You know, you scoop it out. Why not just leave it? Well, you see the base, the channel here, where it's going to sit inside of the shoe. If you leave it too narrow, the problem is it could kind of scooch around a little bit, and you know, you want an orthotic to act a little bit independently. You don't want something to be so firm or so full where it's taking up too much space that it doesn't float. In most cases, you want a little bit of float with the orthotic so it moves with the shoe and the foot together. If you have too firm or rigid of an orthotic, or if it takes up too much space, it becomes either a part of the foot or the shoe, and each one has to work together but also independently. So we're going to fill in this scaphoid with a material that's essentially 40% softer compared to the multi-cork that was filling it. So that's the idea. We're going to take a quick little break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. D11 foot type. Arch height, medium low, low, nice and even neutral, broken left ankle 10, 11 years ago, right knee pain now. New custom orthotic a few months ago, arch feels too high. So what we're doing is a modification profile where we're reducing the arch, scaphoid from underneath. More so reducing the pressure by reducing the firmness. So we're gonna take the top down, and what we have here is a 35 durometer EVA, 6 millimeter, scooped out the scaphoid medial arch, the multi-cork, 55 durometer at the base there, leaving the sole flex 70 durometer black layer. That's only 3 millimeters at the thickest part, and it's more so for a shape layer. It's not the filler agent. The cork is a filler agent. So we're reducing the pressure by reducing the firmness of the materials from underneath. Oftentimes you might see this type of modification where people just simply remove the materials, and we don't like doing that because the base needs to be sitting inside of the shoe as properly as possible. If you cut it out and leave it too narrow through this area here, it might not sit inside of the shoe properly. So we want to fill this in with a softer agent. Sometimes if we have real sensitive feet, we'll use a material called Bolara. That's about 20 Shore durometer. We're going with a 35 durometer, 6 millimeter microcell puff EVA material right here. This is good stuff. It's going to definitely be softer. You have approximately 40% softer foam in this zone here. And we're going to take her to the grinder. Square everything off and get this lovely customer going. Yeah. All right, so it's been a workshop live, simple little mod, D11 foot type. Lowered the arch by filling in the scaphoid with, removing the cork and filling it in with a 40% softer microcell puff EVA. If your feet hurt, let us take a look. ChiappettaShoes.com/appointments. Ain't no better than Chiappetta. Make us your first step when you're selling foot paint. Ciao.